Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdicus Ryan, and today I'm joined by
Nerdicus Dave,
Nathan Nerdark.
And do these wings make me look angelic? Today we're going to do What Does Your Race Say About You? The Aasimar.
Jump down in the description below where you can find Nerdarchy, the newsletter, game weekly tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
And this video is brought to you by our Angelic Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much. You can find a link below to help support us on Patreon. And speaking of angelic things, how about those Aasimars?
Aasimars, what does it mean to play an Aasimar in Dungeons, 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons? How does that shape your character and the characterization and how you're going to role play at the table?
You're really sexy, I think, is what the case is.
Well, that is true. With charisma being your biggest stat, you are very likable, and people are going to be attracted to you.
And I think there's a fierceness about that charisma. Like, it's definitely a force of presence as well as good looking.
It's almost like that sort of like the Fae, you know, how they just exude that sort of power and that projection of power there, which is going to, when we talk about the new Bard builds, is also kind of lead into that and how well they work together. But that sort of just like otherworldliness, they're like the lawful and good version of the chaotic good or chaotic neutralness of Fae.
One of the problems, though, with the Aasimar is they're kind of like born under, you know, this auspicious destiny where, like, you don't become an Aasimar by accident. They're intentionally brought into the world. Greater power from on high has decided that it needs a champion in the world, and you're it. And you don't really get a choice.
Your origin is kind of like the unwilling cleric. Or, I mean, depending on how you feel about the mantle. But, so you could absolutely do that. You could also do the more conventional planar touch where, like, your grandfather or great-grandfather was an angel or an angeless, you know, a female angel.
Yeah, but I almost view it when you're talking about beings of that level, that was a plan. You know, even though that, you know, they already know the prophecy, all right, well, I have to lay with this human at this particular time because I know, you know, when needed, it's going to produce the scion that we need to help whatever cause is there then. You know?
Okay, sweet.
It's almost being like being born in the royalty. You're kind of stuck with this lineage, and you're just, I mean, that was your lot in life. You're going to be doing this thing, and you can try and buck the system, but there's kind of this, you know, you can either roll with it or fight against it, but you're there.
Well, I mean, or caste system in a way, too. Like, you know, how you're thrust upon you in that way with a more rigid society, and also, but the caste you're born into is kind of outcast because you're so otherworldly and weird.
Like, that's one of the very first things as a player you're gonna have to decide is how do you feel about this destiny?
How do you deal with it? Yeah.
You know, is it something that you embrace? Huzzah! You know, you're all about it, or are you reluctantly, or have you rejected it?
Do you reject it or just ignore it? Like, those are the three options: embrace, reject, ignore.
I got this rash, but I'm sure if I ignore it, it'll go away.
Exactly.
Then there's also the idea that they're kind of hounded by evil. We talked about in our other video about, you know, evil gets extra points for off and Aasimars.
Yeah, they're on the hit list to everybody.
So a lot of them live their life incognito, but there might be others that don't, that are kind of like in your face. No, here I am. It's like when you put Punisher in prison, or, you know, from The Watchmen when they put Rorschach in the prison, and he's like, no, you think I'm trapped in here with you? No, you're trapped in here with me, and he starts putting people in the fryer.
So you gotta go Scourge, and you're just projecting your radius against everyone. Well, once per day.
Well, yeah. well, that's kind of the other thing. The sub build that you go with, I think, is gonna also reflect your personality a little bit, or could, you know, because, you know, what if you are the Scourge, but, you know, that angry, vengeful part of your personality is something that you fight about.
You rarely bring that out.
You want to be a pacifist, yeah. Like, you're like, no, beautiful butterflies.
Or it's you know, you can also think about it like, you know, how Irish people blame their temper on being Irish.
Yeah.
But, you know, it could also be kind of like a crutch you use to say why you're angry all the time, or why you're, you know, you break stuff when you get angry. And
that would be an interesting flaw. Like, you're always getting the, like, barroom brawls and tavern brawls and stuff like that, and you're like, it's not me, you don't understand, it's the angel and made me do it.
Yeah, the angry angel.
The angel made me do it. Yeah. He's always telling me things and showing me stuff.
Well, yeah, it's like Bad Kazoo, but It actually makes me think of Dogma too, like how like after one of the angels misbehaved, they were forbade from like drinking alcohol, so like they could like put it in their mouth, but they'd have to like spit it out. So like they're out like drinking, but Matt Damon and Ben Affleck or whatever are just like constantly like drinking the alcohol and then spitting it out because they can't actually drink it. Yeah. So so you could have these weird sort of like angelic taboos that like you can't drink, but you kind of do, but in that way.
Yeah, they talk about guiding with dreams, and I was thinking about that could also alter the person's personality, because I was just thinking, what was there? One of them was bookish and lecturing. I'm just saying, like, if this, like you were saying, you set this guy up for dealing with the apocalypse. The Scion's going to deal with the apocalypse. You get the bookish and learning diva, and he's like, all right, I must explain all of the history that led up to this point. And it's like terrible wars and people getting dismembered and all kinds of terrible things. And like, this is what will happen. This is what will come to pass if you do not fix it. And meanwhile, the guy's thinking he's being tormented by this like spirit.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing too, because you have that NPC that's always in your life. You could be in harmony with them or at odds with them. That's another important decision for the player to make throughout, because it's going to reflect how they are. Yeah. Like, it even talks about how angels are kind of big picture. They don't see the small things. Like, if you embrace being, a champion of good in Aasimar, like, and maybe you love and care for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to stop and help everybody, but your angel guide is like, the big problem's over there.
Yeah. You have to deal with this thing over here that leave the villagers to the slaughter because you have this war to stop.
Right. So you could have, you could have this life of conflict where you're constantly kind of fighting with it. Or like, I was thinking about the dream thing there you're talking about. Like, what if you went really dark with it and you had an Aasimar that basically would take like drugs to stay awake because it doesn't want to see the dreams. Yeah. It doesn't want the it doesn't want the angel. Like, he hasn't gone fallen yet. But at the same time, he's like, enough's enough. Get the voices out of my head.
Well, and that's so the interesting discussion too is like the nature of the relationship with Angel, because it could be a very direct, like almost like they occasionally have conversations, or it could be very like obtuse sort of thing. The Aasimar character could think that they're like going crazy, have no idea that they're actually an Aasimar, and they just think that they're losing their shit. Yeah, essentially that they're fit for the loony bin.
That's troubling when you're the person that's questioning your own sanity, and you're completely sane, but there's this question in your mind: am I really sane? Am I going crazy?
Do sane people hear voices?
Yeah, do sane people get weird prophetic dreams?
Or occasionally sprout wings and exude radiant energy all around them.
That burns. It burns so good. Yeah. Or the fun thing is if you decide to go fallen. Now, granted, this might not be a great one for a campaign where you're supposed to be the heroes, but you could definitely do something with that, and that would definitely inform, or you could go anti-hero, if you want to play more of an anti-hero character with that, where you've rejected your angelic guide, but you're still going to do good. You're just doing it your way. You're like, I don't care what you have to say.
Makes me think of Watchmen with the comedian.
Yeah.
He did some really terrible stuff, but he helped.
It was a greater good sort
helped
of
win the war kind of thing in the series.
You could do something with maybe just like somehow your angelic guide gets replaced by a demon, and that's why like you don't even know that your nature, like you're good, but like your angelic guide, like basically if you did the warlock thing or whatever, like Fiend Pact, your angelic guide, like you essentially don't realize it, but you got superseded or supplanted by a demonic influence, and you're following their direction, and you think you're still following like angelic voices.
I don't know. It might be a tip off when the bone wings sprout, breathing dark energy sprout from your back.
Well, but maybe you're too overtaken by the moment and the rage to even like
notice.
Yeah, notice. Yeah. I mean, other people are gonna.
Your friends might be like, dude, your wings.
Years of dreams can have a big impact on you, especially with someone who's plotting and a sentience behind what you're seeing. Yeah. So,
and I mean, real friends aren't gonna point out the bone wings. If you're sensitive about that, like your friends are assholes if they bring that up. All right.
So what you're saying?
Maybe something bad
it'd be like calling them fat. Is that what what it would be like.
Something like that. Or if you have acne at the time.
Yeah, or a
like,
giant scar on your face,
Yeah.
and someone's like, "Oh, that's really
Or
terrible."
if you're sprouting horns and skeletal wings when you manifest your fallen angelness.
You know, at the end of the day, there is a ton of ways to play the Aasimar. It's very robust as far as the races go. It gives you a lot of fodder to dig into for your characterization.
Yeah, there's so much RP like built just into this class. It's pretty fantastic, and just plot hooks as far as the dungeon master is concerned.
And I feel like it's so much easier than some of the other races. Like, to me, elves seem very foreign as like how you would play an elf. Where these feel much more like humans, but with with
complications.
With different flavors and spices mixed in for you to portray and play off of.
Yeah, and the other thing that we mentioned in the other video is that you don't have to be a human. Like, you could take the Aasimar into any racial combination and just say, yeah, he's this thing, but he's really an Aasimar. Like, he's an elf or a dwarf.
Halfling.
Or halfling.
No. But yeah, and then you would figure out, what does it mean to be that race, and then what does it mean to be that race now that you've been touched by the divine spark.
Or talk about Aasimars that you want to play. You can put them down in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Check us out over on Facebook.
Check out articles over nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.